Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carter. I love talking about movies, horror movies, superheroes, and comic books. And speaking of comic books and superheroes, Season 4 of The Boys just ended today. The season finale aired, and I just barely finished watching it after a very long, very busy day. But I really wanted to sit down and talk about both the finale and Season 4 overall. Before I get into my thoughts on the finale, I am someone who has been pretty critical of Season 4 in a way that I haven't been critical of the previous 3 seasons. I think that the writing, in my opinion, has taken a bit of a decline. I think both showrunner Eric Kripke and the writer's room have become a little too focused on shock value and political commentary and satire over character work and character arcs. And I know people will say shock value and politics has been a core aspect of the show since day one and the comic books. And yes, I agree. But in my opinion, and from what I can, stand by as a longtime fan of the show, a longtime viewer, watched season 1 the day it came out, caught up with the show ever since. In my opinion, it's always been able to balance character and shock value, and I feel like that was especially bad in episodes 1, 2, 3, and 6, to where they just emphasized all of the shock value and all of the comments about the finale. Like I mentioned, I've been very critical of Season 4, but I still think it's a good season of television. I've still enjoyed it. I don't hate the show. I still find it endlessly entertaining by all means. Very funny at some points. The action and the gore is always welcome. But I think Season 4 finale really reminded me of why I love the show, of why I adore The Boys so much, because of those amazing performances, first off, by Anthony Starr, Jack Quaid, Karen Fukuhara, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Carl Urban. Everyone here is really top-notch. Valerie Curry as well gives a great scene at the end. Susan Hayward as Sister Sage is a fun addition to this season. And I think that, honestly, the performers, this episode may be one of the best episodes for performances all around. It was a longer episode, and I just loved a lot of the little scenes. I will get into light spoilers, and then I will get into full spoilers. I did really love the scene of Huey and Butcher talking on the phone. I thought that was a great way to showcase Carl Urban's acting abilities, and a great way for the show to just slow down and really remind people why they love the show, because of the amazing characters, the amazing actors portraying the characters, and the love that they have for these characters. I feel like this episode did a great job of just showing a lot of moments where we just love the characters, of showing little moments where characters are emotional, where characters interact, and it feels genuine, it feels heartfelt. So much of The Boys is so bombastic and over the top in a way that's very fun and entertaining, but what continues to draw me back to the show is the characters. And I think that that's something that this season really fumbled the bag. They just lost sight of what people love about the show. And yeah, I think, in my opinion, quick little side tangent, there are 2 groups of people who view The Boys. Group 1 is people who just watch The Boys as entertainment. They watch it as a comedy. They watch it as, a bunch of gore, a bunch of jokes, a bunch of over-the-top scenes, which, yes, it does contain. And if you watch The Boys like that, power to you. I am in no way, shape, or form trying to diss you or demean your opinion of The Boys, trying to demean your taste at all. I totally agree with you. I think The Boys is a perfect show for all of that. I think there's a second group of people that watch The Boys because of the character interactions, because of the amazing characters that Eric Kripke and all of the writers' room, all of the performers, everyone who has worked on the show has carefully crafted over 4 seasons. I love the characters of The Boys. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. And like I said, I think Season 4 really dropped the ball when it comes to that. However, the finale really brought me back to reminding me to why I love these characters. The characters in the show and the character writing in the show, especially in the Season 4 finale, felt great. I do have some issues with Huey and Annie especially. I feel like Annie is just a little too harsh on Huey for what happens here. I mean, he was a victim. By no means was he totally on board with everything that happened. He was against it. And Annie still treats him as he had malicious intent. That rubbed me the wrong way. That might just be it's a character flaw that Annie has. Yeah, she shouldn't have said that, shouldn't have done that. She acted out of turn. But I think just the writers have a really negative stigma towards Huey and assault on male characters, as evidenced in the last 3 episodes. That's really starting to rub me the wrong way, especially with how they treated Starlight's assault in Season 1. that's just a complaint that I've beginning to have that's really been like the last 3 episodes. Dude, come on, like give Huey a break, stop assaulting him in that way. I'm not someone who gets very touchy about that subject, but it is starting to get to a point where I'm like, dude, let's take it down a notch, Eric Kripke. Like, please, I think you're starting to have a weird thing for that. And that would be really my only complaint about the season 4 finale. It's just that some of the writing with the characters and that assault stuff with Huey is a little weird. I feel like they kind of saved up all of the action and big defining moments for season 4 until this episode. A lot of season 4 felt like filler, even though I enjoyed episodes. I do think that season 4 is just structured in a weird way. The finale is structured in an odd way to where I didn't really feel the stakes. It was tense, it was exciting, it was engaging, but I never really felt like someone could go at any time. It felt very telegraphed to me what was going to happen, either 2 outcomes, and I was right. I'll get into spoilers in a minute. But it just felt very telegraphed for me. So as much as I loved the episode, I was like, oh, like, you know, looking at the season and following past formulas of the season, I probably could have predicted what was going to happen here. And I did, like, all the way back. If you watch my original video on The Boys, season 4, I predicted some of what was going to happen. And one of the biggest positives I can give for this episode is that as exciting and as fun as it was, it left me excited for season 5. I think partially a big part of that is because it's the last season of the show, so I know they have to really ramp up everything if they really want to wrap it all up in a nice bow, give us satisfying character arcs, satisfying conclusions. So I am looking forward to how that's going to go. I do think that some of the effects, in a little bit just looked a little goofy. That's just like one minor nitpick complaint. And now I will go ahead and move into full spoilers for the finale. So full spoilers here, Sister Sage, who has actually been a very enjoyable addition this season. Like I said in my original Boys video about season 4 a few weeks back, I think it's great that the boys have an intellectual threat rather than a physical one, because let's be honest, almost any soup could take out the boys. Like, it's kind of crazy that Deep and Black Noir didn't just stomp the boys last episode. That kind of blew my mind. Like, at any point in time, almost every single soup should be able to just curb stomp Butcher or Huey or any of the boys, but they just have so much plot armor, and I understand, you know, the show must go on, but it kind of feels a little low stakes. Anyway, Sister Sage was a very fun and enjoyable addition to the show. Like I said at the beginning, Susan Hayward gives a great performance. Someone who just wants to utilize their intellect, utilize their gifts, and see if they really can do everything they think they can do, and it was enthralling to see her achieve that. So she enacts her plan, she's successful, Homelander is now effectively president of the United States. Sure, there's an actual president, the guy that Madeline Stillwell blackmailed in season 1, but really it's Homelander, he answers to Homelander, so all the Vought soups are now pretty much just patrolling America. It's like a fascist regime where they'll just enact Homelander's will, so he's now a dictator over everybody. The boys all get arrested. Kimiko is just held back by Sam from Gen V. Kimiko says her first word, which I thought was a very effective emotional moment. As much as I disliked the Frenchie Colin plotline, and unfortunately I do have to go out and say, it has nothing to do with Frenchie's sexuality. If you've watched the show like a normal person and actually kept your eyes open, you know he's pretty much been gay the whole time. He's bisexual. He'll just, you know, try and snag anything that walks. He's just Frenchie. So it was no surprise to me that he probably, you know, had sex with a guy. Crazy thought. But it just rubbed me the wrong way because at the end of the show, oh, he kissed Kimiko, he's back with Kimiko. Like, okay, they kind of set that up at the end of season 3, so why don't you just run with that? Felt like they were treading water with a lot of the Frenchie Kimiko plot lines this season, which I will get into in my review of the season 4 in a second. Huey has a great moment here where he rallies the team together to rely on mercy, to where I think that although no matter what happens to Huey, he'll never lose his humanity. Sure, he'll kill people if he really, really has to, but he still tries to see the good in people, still tries to have mercy. I love that Huey is able to deduce that the shapeshifter is faking being Annie. I hated Annie's reaction to it, though. I understand, like, it's frustrating, right? Like, oh, how wouldn't you know it was me? Like, dude, she had your memories. She had your appearance. And, like, Annie is just projecting all of her insecurities, all of her anger on Huey, which is a character flaw, but I still feel like Kripke in the writer's room just love to beat down or punch down on Huey and make a lot of what happens to him a joke. Like, oh, I don't want to know if I have shapeshifter syphilis. Like, dude, he was assaulted. Like, that's something that's insane, and you're just like walking over that. Like, I'm someone who thinks a lot of the dark humor in The Boys or in other shows, or humor that pushes the boundaries, like in movies like Tropic Thunder, Superbad, Bottoms, is really funny. It's just not funny here lately. A lot of the humor of The Boys is just like, haha, Huey is assaulted, haha, isn't it funny? Oh, he's gonna cry for 5 seconds, haha, oh, it's about his dad. Haha, let's do it again 2 more times. The effects on Butcher's tentacles, totally jumping here to a big complaint of the finale and a big complaint for season 4, which will segue into my season 4 overall review. Butcher's tentacles looked terrible. So bad. The effects on those was just bad. It kind of took me out of the moment. And as much as I love the way it ends up for everybody, killing Newman just felt like the most obvious thing in the world. As soon as season 3 ended and they said, oh, we gotta kill Newman, it's like season 2, 3, and 4 all follow the same formula. Homelander, evil. Homelander, bad. Butcher and the boys want to stop Homelander. Butcher and the boys break up. Butcher and the boys argue. Butcher goes too far. Butcher comes back. A supervillain is introduced that's not Homelander, that is a bigger threat than Homelander. I mean, granted, you could use the argument that they just don't know how to kill him yet, but it's like they don't ever really try. They're just like, nothing kills him. Let's go kill Newman. It's like, dude, well, like, yeah, but it just feels very repetitive. And I know people will say, like, oh, it's because she's the bigger threat. That could be argued. In my opinion, Homelander's the bigger threat, as evidenced by the end of this episode. But still, like, dude, the whole goal of the show is to kill Homelander. So obviously, you kill Homelander, show's over, and Kripke and the team are trying to stretch it out to 5 seasons, which I get. It just feels like the same pattern. In season 1, it's Homelander, and then, like, Stillwell. And then in season 2, it's Stormfront. Season 3, it's Soldier Boy, which is ridiculous. Season 4, it's Newman. Season 5, I mean, I hope it's Homelander. It better be Homelander, because I don't know who else it's going to be. Like, what, Firecracker? She's going to have a heart attack and die. The Deep, you just put him in heat or something. I don't know. Not in heat, but, like, in warmth. And that brings me to my overall review and criticisms of season 4. Like I said, season 4, probably my least favorite season of the show overall. I love the first 3 seasons. All of them have their faults. I think season 2 gets a little sidetracked sometimes, but it does have some of the best action and dynamics of the show. Season 3 has Soldier Boy, who just carries the show on his back, has some of the best jokes, has the Hero-gasm episode, which is probably the best episode of this show besides the season 2 finale. And now we have season 4, which has really great episodes of its own, like episode 4 and episode 5. I did criticize the tonal disturbance, the total dissonance in episode 5, because you have Huey's dad dying a very emotional death. The only scene in the entire show which had me tear up, followed immediately by like sheep tearing through people. And it's like played as a joke, to where sometimes you need to have a little bit of a buffer between those things. So it's like, wow, Huey's dad died, that's so sad. And the next scene is like, oh my gosh, a sheep, this man is in no condition to have sex with a sheep. And hopefully I don't get demonetized. I can't even get demonetized, I'm not even monetized. A lot of season 4 frustrated me in just the ways that I've been criticizing. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, prioritizing shock value and political like satire or political humor over character. And unfortunately, I have to double down on this and say I know politics and I know shock value have been an integral part of The Boys since the first episode. A lot of the show is political humor, political commentary, but at a point in time, especially with the beginning of season 4, it kind of just felt like, hey, this is like Donald Trump, right? Like, hey, this is like MAGA guys. And don't get me wrong, I love to laugh at stuff like that as much as the next person. I am in no way, shape, or form politically affiliated with any party. I think it's stupid. I think it's very stupid. So I love to laugh at everything. But at a certain point, it's just not funny. It's just like, hey, you should laugh, right? Like, this is funny, right? Like, there's the riots. Like, hey, like January 6th, right? Like when they stormed the White House. Or like, right? Isn't that funny, dude? And so stuff like that, it just feels like low-hanging fruit, where the writing used to poke fun at corporations, at every politician, at so much of what's wrong with the country, with people in general, with money and everything like that. And now the show is just like, hey, get a load of Huey getting assaulted, dude. And also politics right there. Like, right-wingers are stupid. And I might even cut that, because if I put that in a YouTube video, people are going to think I'm friggin' Adolf Hitler or something. But it's just, I miss when the boys used to be smart. I guess that's what I'm saying, is I miss when the boys used to be smart and witty about its jokes, its commentary, its shock value. I think the biggest issue with the show can be easily demonstrated in episode 2, to where it just takes a hard right turn to make a ton of political jokes and a ton of shock value stuff, like Splinter doing the human centipede act on himself to Firecracker. And I don't think I laughed at a single joke besides maybe like Singer is an alien. I thought that was pretty funny. Like some of the tinfoil hat conspiracies made me laugh because it was like either a simple sight gag that they didn't linger on, or it was maybe like a little clever joke they had. And then you just have like Frenchie and Kamiko going down a random hall and staring at Splinter doing a horrific act to himself, so the showrunner can go on an interview before the show comes out and be like, yeah, we just filmed the most depraved thing for season 4, and that they can say that like they didn't say that for season 3 or season 2 or season 1. It's just getting repetitive, and I think that's the biggest thing. Like, okay, in a season to where a lot of it felt like filler, a lot of it felt undercooked, you can take moments like Splinter doing that act to himself, or even Splinter's entire character, and maybe give more depth to Huey wanting to be more human, or give more depth to Ryan, because he's going to be a big player in the next season, to where maybe there was a few more moments with A-Train we could have had with him and MM. My favorite thing about this season was A-Train's turn, his redemption arc. I was actively rooting for him, and it was amazing when the boys focuses on what it does best, which is character writing. They made A-Train, who is someone who is so despicable, he ran through Huey's girlfriend in the first 5 minutes of the show. They made me root for him. They may not have made everyone root for him, but they made me root for him. They made me scared he was going to die. They made me want him to be a good guy and win. And that is the power. That is the strength of the boys. And the weakness of the boys is when the showrunners, when the writers overindulge themselves and start to really just get into what they think people watch the boys, what a small vocal group of people watch the boys for, which is the shock value, which is the humor that pushes the envelope. And don't get me wrong, there were a lot of lines, there was a lot of humor this season that I found very funny, very charming, very witty, that I laughed at. There was a lot of stuff that I was like, wow, that's very gory. I think that's like, wow, like, oh, that's shocking to see. But at the same time, that's not why I watched the show. And that's just me. You can feel free to disagree with me in the comments below. It just felt wrong to me. It felt strange. It didn't feel like a betrayal of the show, but it just kind of added to that feeling of treading water, to where I didn't like the first 3 episodes. I loved episode 4, probably one of the best episodes of the series that we've gotten. I loved episode 5. Well, I really, really did not like episode 6 whatsoever because of everything they did to Huey, and they gloss over it. You cannot tell me differently. Huey having a breakdown for about 15 seconds of like maybe, and they gloss over it. You cannot tell me that's, oh, they had Huey really just come to terms with it. No, he did not. Oh, it's because he wasn't ready for it. No, dude, you have to focus on stuff like that more, instead of just glossing over it so we can get to a joke about Ashley peeing on Huey. Like, okay. I genuinely don't think I laughed once that entire Tech Night episode. They made Tech Night stupid. They ruined a lot of the good stuff about Gen V, which was Tech Night actually being smart and playing off his whole fetish as like funny and like not subtle, but it wasn't the focus of his character. The focus of his character was that he's smart, he's menacing, he's a threat. And I never felt like Tech Knight was a threat in The Boys. I felt like he was the butt of a joke, like so much of the other stuff. To where episode 7, I really liked. Episode 8, I loved. And episode 6, like I said, I despised it. Had maybe my favorite moment of the show, or of season 4, when A-Train saves MM and he sees the look on that kid's face and he realizes this is what it's like to be a hero. Stuff like that gets me so excited, and I love that. That's the strength of The Boys, when they're really focusing and really trying hard. And I know I've been so critical of The Boys this season, and I know for like two people that actually watch and understand, it's because I love it. I want it to be great. That's why I'm criticizing it, is because I can see the moments of greatness, like making me root for A-Train, where I just get so excited to see him on screen. I get so worried something could happen to him at any time. He somehow makes it through that. That's why I'm harsh on the show. And I haven't even mentioned other great things like Anthony Starr. His performance as Homelander is always great. Homelander, I think, well, maybe they kind of just tread water with him a little bit this season. I love that he goes to Sister Sage. I love that he, at the end of the season, is now someone who has political power and is wanting to do more with it, wanting to enact his will over people. I love how they pushed Butcher to a way where he is embracing Kessler. Although I didn't think the Kessler twist totally worked, I can see it working a lot better now in hindsight with how they tied it to his tumor, his hatred of Supes. Because the only way he would view superheroes as evil, he would break his promise to Becca, is if Ryan killed in cold blood not cold blood, I mean Mallory was pushing the envelope a little bit, was if he was driven to very, very desperate measures and then that happened and he just murdered Grace and Butcher watches it and Ryan walks away and he calls it right there, like, no more deals. All in all, I think my big complaint about season 4 of The Boys can just be dumbed down to writing. I think the writing overall just took a little bit of a less consistent turn to where it used to be pretty consistent. You'd have dumb moments like Butcher and Co. turning on Soldier Boy in the season 3 finale, which I still think is stupid. You know, but they were few and far between. It wasn't all the time to where you had moments like that every other episode, where it was just like mind-boggling, either plot armor or just strange events happening because the showrunners need to stretch it out, or just, you know, like I've been harping on, simple shock humor or a political joke that doesn't quite land, stuff like that. However, overall, season 4 of The Boys, I still enjoyed. I still thought there were great things about it. The performances, like always, are fantastic. The action, like always, is great. The tension, when it is really honed in, is amazing. I'm glad they did what they did with pushing the characters towards season 5. However, The Boys succeeds at what it is probably trying to do for the mass majority of people, which is be entertaining. It is always and always will be endlessly entertaining. Season 4 is something that, well, I won't watch with as much excitement and vigor as the previous 3 seasons. I will still watch it. Don't get me wrong. I'll still watch this at least 2 or 3 more times before season 5 comes out. I really think people underestimate how much I enjoy the show and how often I watch it. Like, I'll just put it on when I'm doing stuff because I love it that much. And I'm very excited to see where they go next. I might even make a whole new video on what The Boys Season 5 will do, on what will happen in Season 5. Let me know if you guys would like to see that in the comments below. Do you agree with my very lengthy take on the finale and Season 4 as a whole, or do you disagree? I love to do these more long-form videos about shows or movies that I really love. For example, I did an Invincible Season 2 review that I think is one of my better videos, one of my more strong critiques, criticisms, reviews, so feel free to check that out if you will. As always, I have a few other Boys videos, like a video on episode 6 or 5, I believe, and a video on the first 3 episodes. Feel free to check those out as well. As always, guys, thank you so much for the support. The Boys Season 4, well, not perfect, still enjoyable. I have my issues with it, but as far as I can see, the majority of people are still really enjoying it, which makes me happy to see because I think that it is overall a very enjoyable show. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for the support. I think I've said that before. And of course, you know, it goes without saying, have a great rest of your day.